I'm sitting in a coffee shop right now, and across from me is an empty chair. Has been empty for 3 years. And I want to tell you something that nobody talks about when they talk about grief. They don't tell you about the empty chair. They don't tell you about the Tuesday mornings when you automatically make 2 cups of coffee instead of one. They don't tell you that grief isn't something that happens to you once and then ends. They don't tell you that it's something you learn to carry for the rest of your life. My name is Michael. I'm 68 years old, and I lost my son when I was 65. His name was James. He was 41. And before I go any further, I need to say something to anyone watching who's lost a child, no matter your age. I see you, and I'm sorry, because what I'm about to share with you, I wish I'd understood before it happened. Maybe it won't stop the pain. Maybe nothing stops the pain. But at least you won't think you're losing your mind along the way. James died on a Tuesday, not dramatically, not in some sudden shocking way that gives you permission to fall apart. He had a heart attack in his apartment, alone. They found him the next morning. And when I say found, I mean his landlord discovered the body, because James didn't show up to work, and people wondered where he was. He was gone for almost 24 hours before anyone knew. That detail haunted me for the first year. The thought that he'd been lying there, and I didn't know. That while I was going about my day, I was at work that Tuesday, I was having lunch with a colleague, I was driving home thinking about what groceries I needed to buy. My son was dead in an apartment 5 miles away. I keep thinking about that distance. 5 miles. You can drive that in 10 minutes. When the police called, I didn't believe them. That's not what I expected grief to feel like. I expected to cry. I expected to collapse. Instead, I stood in my kitchen for probably 30 seconds and thought, no, that's not right. You have the wrong person. As if it was just a clerical error. As if saying it wasn't true would make it true. My wife, Sarah, heard me on the phone. I didn't have to tell her what happened. She just looked at my face and she knew. And we stood there in our kitchen looking at each other, and something fundamental shifted in both of us. In that moment, we became the parents who lost a child, and we would be those people for the rest of our lives. Here's what people will tell you when someone dies. I'm so sorry for your loss. He's in a better place. Time heals all wounds. You'll get through this. Stay strong. They mean well. They really do. But what they don't tell you is the truth about what grief actually looks like when it's happening to you. They don't tell you that grief is not a straight line. It's not something you work through in 5 stages and then you're done. That's a lie. What grief actually is a maze with no exit. Some days you think you've made progress, and then you turn a corner and you're right back at the beginning, on your knees, gasping for air. I thought the worst day would be the day I found out James died. It wasn't. The worst day was 3 weeks later, when I forgot just for a moment that he was gone. I woke up and thought about something I wanted to tell him, and then I remembered. And that moment, that one moment where I had to remember all over again that my son was dead, that hurt more than the initial shock ever did. I also didn't know that grief would make me angry. Nobody talks about the anger. They talk about sadness, depression, the blues, but nobody tells you that sometimes you'll be sitting at a red light and you'll be furious. Furious at James for dying. Furious at the universe for taking him. Furious at God if you believe in God. Furious at strangers who walk past you alive and breathing when your son is not. I was angry at people with their children. I still am sometimes. I'd see a father and son at the store and something inside me would clench. Why do they get to have that and I don't? Is that irrational? Probably. Is it fair? No. But grief doesn't care about fairness or rationality. Grief just cares that you have a hole in your chest that can't be filled. Nobody warns you that grief comes with 1,000 tiny traumas that you have to experience over and over. James's birthday comes around, and you have to relive the fact that he's not getting older. You'll never celebrate his 42nd birthday. You'll never go to his 50th, his 60th. You'll never watch him gray at the temples or slow down a bit. That version of your son that could have existed, he just doesn't. And you have to grieve the future you imagined, not just the past you had. Nobody warns you about the moments that ambush you. I was at the grocery store last month, and they were playing this song, a song James loved when he was in college. I'm standing there in the produce section, holding a tomato, and suddenly I can't breathe. I can see him at 19 years old. Driving his beat-up Honda Civic, singing this song at the top of his lungs, and he's been dead for 3 years, but in that moment, it felt like it happened yesterday. Nobody tells you that you'll start avoiding the places where you're happy, because happiness feels like a betrayal. How can I laugh at a movie when my son is dead? How can I enjoy a nice dinner when he'll never eat again? It sounds irrational, I know, but grief doesn't follow the rules of logic. Grief follows the rules of guilt. And here's something nobody tells you. Your marriage might break under the weight of it. Sarah and I, we almost didn't make it. Not because we didn't love each other. We did. We do. But grief is isolating. It's like you're both drowning in the same ocean, but you're drowning separately. You can see each other, but you can't reach each other. I was grieving James as my son. Sarah was grieving him as her child. And somehow, even though we were the only two people in the world who understood what we'd lost, we became strangers. We didn't talk about it for months. We just existed in the same space, sleeping in the same bed, eating at the same table, but completely alone. It wasn't until Sarah said something one night, I can't even remember what it was anymore, that something broke open. And we finally cried together, not individually, together. And it was like we remembered that we still had each other. That grief had almost taken that from us, too. I'm 3 years into this, and I want to tell you some things that actually helped. Not the things people say, the things that actually worked. First, stop trying to get over it. People tell you to move on, to get past it, to move forward. But that's not what happens. What happens is you learn to move forward while carrying it with you. There's a difference. I'm not over James's death. I'll never be over it, but I've learned to carry it differently. I still talk about him. I still bring him up in conversations. My friends used to get uncomfortable when I mentioned James, like I was dredging up sad things. Then I realized something. If I don't talk about him, it's like he never existed. And he did exist. He mattered. And I need people to know that. Second, your grief timeline doesn't match anyone else's. People got frustrated with me at around the 6-month mark. They thought I should be doing better. As if grief has an expiration date, as if there's some point where you wake up and you're suddenly fine. There isn't, and anyone who expects that from you doesn't understand loss. What helped me was finding other people who'd lost children, not to compare pain. There's no point in that, but just to know I wasn't alone, to know that the anger I felt, the weird guilt, the way I couldn't concentrate, the way I'd forgotten how to laugh, that this was all normal, that was everything. Third, and this is important, don't hide your grief. Society doesn't know what to do with grieving people. We're uncomfortable. We make people sad. So there's this unspoken pressure to put on a brave face, to say you're fine, to move on quietly. But hiding grief is like trying to contain an ocean in a teacup. It overflows. I cried at work. I cried at the store. I cried in my car. There were days where I couldn't get through a sentence without my voice breaking. And you know what? People who mattered understood. People who didn't understand, they probably weren't that important anyway. Fourth, create rituals. One of the things that saved Sarah and me was creating a ritual around James's birthday. We don't ignore it. We acknowledge it. We light a candle. We cook his favorite food. We look through photographs. We tell stories. We let ourselves cry and be sad and angry. And then we move through it together. It's still hard. His birthday will always be hard, but we're not alone in it anymore. And finally, understand this. Grief changed me. It made me softer in some ways and harder in others. It took away my illusions about how much time we have, how safe we are, how in control we are of anything. It made me appreciate things in a way I never did before. It made me reach out to my living children more often. It made me tell people I love them. I'm not grateful for James's death. Don't misunderstand me. I would give anything to have him back. But the way grief cracked me open, the way it forced me to reckon with what actually matters, the way it made me human in a different way, I can see how some people find meaning in that. I'm still working on that myself. If you're grieving, I want you to know that what you're feeling is valid. All of it. The sadness, the anger, the guilt, the weird moments of laughing at something and then feeling terrible about it. It's all valid. It's all part of the process of loving someone so much that losing them breaks you. And if you haven't lost a child, but you're watching this because you're trying to understand someone who has, I want you to know that the best thing you can do is just show up. Don't fix it. Don't try to make it better. Don't say things like, at least you still have, or he's in a better place. Just show up. Sit with them. Listen when they talk about their child. Use their child's name. Remember their birthday. Help them carry it. I'm 68 years old now. James would have been 44 next month if he were still alive. I'll light a candle for him. I'll cry. Sarah and I will sit at that empty chair and we'll remember, and life will keep going the way it does, the way it always does. But he'll be with us, not the way he was, not in the way I want, but he'll be with us. And that's the truth about grief that nobody tells you. It doesn't end. You don't get over it. You don't move past it. You learn to live alongside it. You learn that love and loss are two sides of the same coin, and if you love someone, you have to accept that someday, whether you're ready or not, you might lose them. So here's my question for you, and I want you to really think about it. Is there someone in your life who you've been meaning to call? Someone you've been putting off reaching out to? Oh, someone you love but haven't told in a while? Don't wait. Don't assume you'll have time. Make the call. Send the message. Show up. Because the one thing I know for certain at 68 years old is this. The people we love are not guaranteed to be here tomorrow. And the chance to tell them that they matter, the chance to spend time with them, the chance to create memories together, that's the most precious thing you have. Don't waste it. If this meant something to you, I'd appreciate it if you'd subscribe and turn on notifications. Drop a comment and tell me about someone you need to reach out to. And if you've got your own story to share, something you've learned through loss or grief that might help someone else, there's a form in the description. Maybe next time we'll be sharing your story. Thank you for listening. And to anyone grieving a child, any age, anywhere, I see you and I'm with you.